Morning. So today I'm going to tell a story. I'm going to tell a story about my mother, and there will be kind of a lesson at the end of it. So let me tell you about my mother. My mother is now 80 years old. She was born in 1938. My grandmother was 16 years old. She was married, but my grandmother was 16 years old. Now, there's a strange thing about families. At least back in the old days, it probably still happens now. But families have all kind of secrets that they keep, and they don't like to divulge things. My mother, for the entire time I've known her, which of course I guess that means my entire life, has always been kind of a nervous, stressed out, worried sort of person. And it seems that a lot of that has to do with some of this hidden family history that I just found out about a few months ago, which started the whole thing. So, my mother started off with a period where she was living in a nice, stable neighborhood, black neighborhood in Shreveport, Louisiana. Went to Catholic school for a couple of years, and then I guess things kind of went off the rails. And she started living kind of a nomadic life, if you will. I mean, she did have a period of time where she spent, I guess, 4 years in Kansas City, going to high school there. But between when she left Catholic school and high school, I guess there was a whole lot of traveling around with her and my grandmother. And you notice I haven't mentioned my grandfather. Well, there you go. I mean, like I said, it's family history. You have to leave some of that stuff out. Then she met my dad when she was 18 years old. He went to, I think, Okinawa, and they got married just before he left. So I don't know how long they knew each other. And then he came back after a year, and they were already married. They moved to Texas because that's where Dad got stationed. And being a military wife, moved a lot. And then when Dad retired, moved here to Central New York area, and everyone was here about 10 years or so, and then they moved to Rochester. And that's the longest period of stability my mother ever had, just like it's the longest period of stability I have right now. The thing is, Mom has still always had these worries. So she worried about her mother, and so she moved my grandmother to where she lived in, probably a year or two after they bought their house in the Rochester area. And she's had to go through a lot of worry there with my grandmother. My grandmother actually got cancer or had it flare up 4 times in her life. And she beat it all 4 times, but that last one really took a major toll on her because at that point she was in her 80s. So Mom is always worried. She worried about me as an only child. I guess maybe part of it is once again related to when she was younger. I'm sure she heard some things and maybe she forgot them on purpose or whatever. It's just interesting what happens with family. Anyway, my mother was always stressed. She stressed at every single holiday. She stressed worrying about what people might say to me or do to me. She worried about Dad. Of course, it turns out another bit of family history that I just found out from the other side of the family a couple months ago is that my dad was shot when he was in Korea, and it turns out he was also shot when he was in Vietnam. I did not know that until 2 months ago. So it seems Mom had reason to be worried about my dad being in those places. Oh my goodness. I mean, like I said, these are just the stories that you learn. So anyway, Mom was always stressed. She was always worried about something. Always. Throughout the entire life. Mom now has dementia. And a lot of people will say that she have Alzheimer's. Well, truth be told, Alzheimer's cannot be diagnosed until someone passes away and they do an autopsy. So they just use it kind of as a catch-all word, but in essence, dementia is really the word that you use. And it's supposed to mean diminished capacity. And it's another one of those words that kind of has taken on a different tone than what it used to be, because anyone who's my age knows that you used to go around calling other kids demented all the time. It was a pretty bad insult. And that we even knew that word was something, but then again, there's another word that people used to get called all the time that these days it's a bad word to use. So it was just one of those kind of things that kids did back in my day. But like I said, now it's just dementia. And one of the big pushes to get someone to having dementia is stress. And so, with what my mom goes through now, it's probably no surprise because she has been stressed her entire life. And it's one of the things that I work on trying to relieve because I have my bit of stress. It turns out that years ago, when I really didn't think I was stressed, I was obviously stressed. I spent tons of hours by myself playing piano for 5 or 6 hours a night when I would get home from work. Just eat something real quick and spend most of the time by myself. I didn't go out to eat all that often at the time. When my parents left town, then it was totally just me. And sometimes I would come home on a Friday night and pull the phone out of the wall. See, you younger folks probably didn't know anything about this, but used to have the phone jacks, and I had 2 phones in the house, and I would just pull the phone jacks out of the wall, and I wouldn't plug it back in until Monday morning just before I went to work. So I wouldn't know if anyone was calling, which most of the time they didn't. So I figured I'll just preempt my being disappointed that no one's calling me and just unhook the phone. Of course, it turned out my parents tried to call me, but they didn't know where I was, and it was pretty good that way. But I spent my years with that kind of stress, and I worry about it now, and especially now that I have mom here, I will admit I am stressed. I've never slept well, and I don't sleep well now. However, I do still try to find my times to not be stressed. I listen to motivational things on YouTube. I download some of that stuff. I listen to different types of music when the weather's better. And you can see me right now. You know what? This is our second day of sun after 2 weeks of no sun whatsoever. And, when my wife is here or when I take her to the senior center, one of the 2 days I take her every week, I'll go down to the lake and I will walk and I will reduce that stress level because I love walking. So that's actually the point today. If you're feeling stressed, you need to know that long-term stress can lead to dementia. Most probably will lead to dementia. Now, at that point, you're probably not going to think you're stressed anymore, but my mother is still stressed even now. There's just no relaxing it. So if you can find ways to get yourself out of stress, do it. I mean, outside of hurting someone else, go find ways to release your stress. Find something calm. People here always recommend meditation. That doesn't work for me. I may address why that doesn't work for me one of these days. Anyway, my name is Mitch Mitchell. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I'll talk to y'all later.